What's happening, everyone? I'm James Lynch. I finally got around to watching Fight Inc., which, if you don't know, is the behind-the-scenes series that the UFC is doing about how they do their business. I think the show's awesome. I would pay good money to watch more episodes of this show. I think it's, it's like taking full swing from the golf world and bringing it to this UFC side of things. I think they did a great job with it. I want to see more of it. But in today's video, I'm going to talk about some things that I think they got wrong in one of the episodes, in particular with Aljamain Sterling and Sean O'Malley. And that's what we're going to talk about here today in this video. So we're going to watch a few clips. I'm going to give my assessment, and then we'll sort of go from there.
Just got a new deal done with Aljo before the fight, but as soon as healthy, we'll find out. But I'm trying to get it done in Boston.
So we make the fight, Aljo versus O'Malley, but when he goes out in the public, he just says all the wrong things.
Okay, so they start going on this angle on the show, talking about how they made the fight, and they make it out in this episode like Sterling has agreed to fight Sean O'Malley in Boston after his fight over Henry Cejudo. But the real reality is that the UFC announced the fight before asking Sterling if he's ready to compete on the card. I mean, we all know what happened here. The UFC essentially kind of forced Sterling to take this fight because they wanted O'Malley on Boston. And again, this is because the UFC, they booked their venues first, and then they put the fighters on the card, and they sort of figure it out there. And granted, you want that fight on Boston. Obviously, O'Malley, big name. That's a big card, Boston. They want to put it together. But this is a key thing they're missing in this episode, where they're not explaining that they released the fight already, and then Sterling is like, you know what, I'm kind of injured. Not to mention Sterling's a champion. So I think this is a bit disingenuous. Like, I know why they're doing it. Obviously, the UFC is not going to make a program where they're going to look bad. But I do want to explain that because I think there's probably people who don't follow the UFC and make it out like Sterling's being extremely difficult, when the reality is Sterling didn't accept the fight when he found out the fight was official on social media after the fact, before there was anything sort of signed. So this is the UFC basically saying, you have to take this fight, and if you don't, you're going to look bad in the public eye. So this is Dana White sort of going off on how Sterling's being difficult, when the reality is he hadn't even accepted the fight yet, and he's the champion. It's not the other way around.
I got a call that Aljo sounds like he doesn't really want to fight. Aljo's one of those guys who just can't get out of his own way.
Then there's this famous scene where they're negotiating. I love this stuff, by the way. This is great.
You don't want to fight, Aljo. You don't have to fight. I'm not forcing you to fight. So you got to decide what you want to do. And whatever you decide, I'm cool with.
Okay, so again, this isn't really true, because the context that they're missing in this clip here is that the UFC announced the fight. Of course they're forcing him to fight. They released the poster. They said the fight's happening. The tickets are being sold. And Dana's making it out like Aljo accepted the fight and then decided that he didn't want to fight. That's something they're not even mentioning here. Like, and again, I know why they're doing it, but I think for the general public, you're kind of deceiving them a little bit, because it makes it look like Sterling agreed. And then all of a sudden he's like, yeah, I don't want to take the fight anymore. That's different. If he did that, then every ounce of criticism that comes his way is deserved. And then you watch Hunter Campbell saying, I'm not going to force you to fight. He's already been forced to fight because they released the poster. So if Sterling doesn't take the fight, public's going to turn on him. Everyone's not going to like him. Like, he's in a no-win situation here. By the way, his manager, Tiki, doesn't say a word. You'd at least think if they're going to film something, he would say something. I don't know if he did in this meeting, but kind of doesn't make the manager look so good either.
Well, I guess where I sit is it kind of puts me in a bad light, where it's like, this guy can't get out of his own way, and he's kind of ruining things. And I'm like, I don't get that thought process of doing that to someone who's always done whatever was asked for him to do.
And it's just this opportunity for you to take his audience that he has built in and introduce you to them.
Now, he's 100% right about this, but the issue is fighting so soon after the last fight. Like, if they had pushed this a couple months, I don't think anyone's complaining here. So again, they're trying to make it in this clip look like he doesn't want to fight O'Malley, but the reality is that he just doesn't want to fight in Boston at that time. If you go back to when the card was, it wasn't that much time in between fights of him fighting Cejudo to him fighting O'Malley. So again, that's not really explained here. So I just want to give some context here.
I see your point 100%. I just still feel, like you said, the communication out of the gate was kind of like, it was a little blindsided. You know what I mean? Like,
so he says blindsided because they announced the fight without letting him know. Like, they don't even explain this context here. Why would Sterling say he's blindsided unless the fight was announced before he accepted? That's like, he literally reveals that here. So I'm sure if you're watching this as an average person, you don't really understand what he's saying by blindsided. The blind side is that they announced the fight beforehand. So just given the context here.
They made the fight right then and there. I know it's a big opportunity. My only thing, like I said, from the very beginning was, damn, I just wish we had a conversation. That was it.
They start thinking, well, they want me to lose. They want him to win. They don't want me to win. We don't decide who wins and loses. We make the fights.
But I mean, again, realistically here, O'Malley's the one who had all the time off. Sterling isn't. Sterling's the champion. If anything, you treat the champion better. And they're basically telling the champion he has to fight in Boston. Again, very disingenuous here. Like, I know what they're doing here. O'Malley's their guy. He's going to make them more money. Like, I get all that. It's just, again, there's a lot of context missing here.
Aljamain Sterling beat the best guys in the world. He's the greatest bantamweight of all time.
Wanted to point this out. They kept bringing this up. Laura Senko mentions this. There's a few others in this clip that mention Aljamain Sterling as being the best bantamweight of all time. That's just not true. It's just not. And that's another thing. Like, again, I'm talking about how I think they, didn't do a very good job with Sterling sort of on portraying him in this episode. You got Aljamain Sterling here. Let's go over his title run here, shall we? He's not even close to being the best bantamweight of all time. And again, they don't mention any of this in the clip, but we're going to go over it here right now. So he wins the title with an illegal knee, which I've always said this. That should have just been a no contest. They should have just done the rematch. So he wins the title basically by a mistake by Petr Yan. They have the rematch. It's close. I know some people felt like Yan won that one. I don't agree. Let's give Aljo that win. He gets the win. The Dillashaw fight, Dillashaw was not healthy to fight. He really wasn't. That was a waste of a fight. They should have given that fight to Jose Aldo or someone else. Dillashaw completely injured, goes into the fight. You could tell within the first couple seconds Dillashaw was out. That's not a legit win. Then he gets the win over Henry Cejudo, which was a split decision. I thought he beat Cejudo. It was still very close. But you're telling me 1-2, like a weird fight here, probably the best win he's had, another weird fight because he was an injury, and then a close fight here that makes him the best bantamweight of all time, as opposed to, I don't know, Dominic Cruz, who's had years of title defenses. You have, Renan Barao, TJ Dillashaw. Like, again, I'm sorry, like they're trying to make it look like this feat that O'Malley did. And I'll give O'Malley his credit. I mean, I believe he was, let me double check. I believe he was the underdog in that fight. Yeah, so you can see O'Malley was like a slight underdog in this fight at plus 190. So again, they're building this up as like O'Malley's fighting the best bantamweight of all time and defying the odds. Okay, he's a plus 190 underdog. That's not that much of an underdog. He wasn't expected to win. Sterling was expected to win, and he gets the win, and it's incredible. But again, the narrative out there from this episode is, he beats the best bantamweight of all time. Sean O'Malley's Conor McGregor. That's basically what they try and argue in this episode, is that, O'Malley is close to McGregor. And look, O'Malley's a popular fighter, but I think, again, there was some stuff in this episode that I think was just kind of missed, and then also just like not the right context. Like, I don't know any MMA fan who thinks that Aljamain Sterling's the best bantamweight of all time. I mean, if he had kept his run going, if he would have beat O'Malley and maybe a few other fighters like in legit wins, then yeah, we can have that conversation. But there's no way he's the best bantamweight of all time. So again, these are some things with the episode that I don't like. And, if you're a casual fan watching this, you're not even going to notice it. But I guess for someone like myself, and I'm sure there's others who watch this, you're probably sitting at home going, yeah, that's not really what happened. Right? So that's all I'm kind of saying here. Again, big fan of the series. It sounds like the UFC is going to be doing more of this. Very, very happy with that. But like I said, I just think that there was some stuff in this that, could have been done a little bit better. That's all. Like maybe a better way of explaining it, so we're at least getting something closer. But like I said, if you watch this episode, your major takeaway is Aljamain Sterling's a diva. He's tough to work with. And also apparently he's the greatest bantamweight of all time. And, Sean O'Malley's the next Conor McGregor. If you watch that, that's basically what you take away from. And that's not really what ended up happening after that. So that's all I wanted to point out in this video. Again, big fan of the series. If any of the UFC people are watching this, great job. Just think there needs to be a little bit more clarification here when it comes to some of the stuff you're talking about. So I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. When you're watching this episode, did you think the same thing I did, where it's like, okay, some of this stuff, not 100%. Again, I get people not liking Aljamain Sterling for certain things, but I think in this case, he kind of got shafted the way they portrayed him here, saying that, again, making it out like he didn't, he accepted the fight and then all of a sudden he doesn't want to take it and all this stuff. Again, my understanding was, and even just talking, to people leading up to the fight, was that they basically announced the fight. Sterling comes out and is like, I didn't sign anything yet. And it's the UFC's way of kind of strong arming them to take the Boston fight. That's my understanding. So follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. I'm James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.